Hi, this is Virendra Singh from ToolsQA.com. I welcome you to class number 2 on Cucumber in Java. In this class, we will talk about how to write your first Cucumber test. Before we proceed with this class, I request you to go back and watch the video of class 1 if you haven't already done that. In the previous class, we talked about how to set up your Cucumber Java environment for test development, and during that process we created a project. We manually created a project called Cucumber Learning. In that project we created a sample feature file, and also we created a test runner. So you can go back and refer to the previous class in order to understand how we created a feature file and how we created a test runner. In this class, we will focus only on creating your first Cucumber test. I want to approach these Cucumber classes in a step-by-step fashion, and in each class I want to talk about only one or two concepts so that we get the concepts perfectly fine in our head. So with this intention, let us move on to the agenda of the class. The agenda of the class is, first of all, we will discuss what a feature file is. Feature file is a place where you would write all your Cucumber tests. After that, we will try to understand how Cucumber works. Then we will talk about what a step definition is, and then we will end up writing our own step definition. Alright, so let us go to the first topic of the day, which is feature file. So let's understand the details of a feature file. In order to understand the details of a feature file, you have to go back and try to understand how we write manual tests. So when you write a manual test, you usually end up writing something like this. For example, we have a functionality called login in your application. Right, so we first specify that we are writing a test for a functionality called login. After that, we create different scenarios for that particular functionality. So in case of login, we might have scenarios like verify that user is able to log in successfully, verify that application doesn't let a user log in with invalid credentials, and third scenario could be verify that user account is logged out after X number of failed login attempts. So there could be a lot of scenarios that you can have in a functionality. So basically what we do is we create a functionality, and in the functionality we create a set of tests, and we call each test as a scenario. So in this case, on the slide, we have just demonstrated one scenario in the login functionality. The scenario is verify that user is able to log in successfully to demo QA website, right? So once you define a scenario, you also define the steps required to perform that scenario. So the third thing that you would do is you would define the test steps. You would say that these are the test steps. On the right hand side you can see the test steps. You would say that first step would be the user will open demoqa.com on the desired browser. In our case we have just chosen Chrome browser. Then you will say that user will click on the My Account link, and then in the third step you would say that user will try to log in using a valid credential. So if he or she is able to log in with a valid credential, the test will pass. If the user is not able to log in, then the test will fail. So basically, this is how we create a manual scenario. We write manual scenarios in Word documents, and sometimes, or I would say most of the times, we write it inside an Excel file. So let us quickly write that scenario once. So we will write the same scenario. So we would first define the feature area. The feature is login, and then we would define a scenario which would be login, which would be verify that user is able to successfully log in on tools on demoqa.com. And then in the scenario we would try to write down the steps required. So I would say step 1 is user uh, navigates to user opens demoqa.com on Chrome browser, let's say. Then I would say step 2 will be user clicks on the My Account link. And the third step would be that user logs in with valid username and password. Right. So this is how you would describe your test scenario. So every test scenario that you create will have three distinct features based on what we have written now. So the first thing that a scenario will have would be called feature, which will signify to which application area this test belongs to. In our case, it is login. In your case, it could be payments. It could be a home page. It could be shopping cart, it could be payments, it could be shopping cart. So basically it could be anything depending on the kind of application you are trying to test and depending on the kind of functionality area that have been assigned to you. So in our case it's just login. So the first key thing would be the feature. So we have to define the feature, and then after that we have to define scenarios. So we have to define scenario. Now there could be a lot of scenarios in a feature, because a scenario could be big scenario. A feature could be a big feature, so that you will end up having multiple scenarios there. So in this case we have, like, let's say 3 scenarios, and then every scenario will have test steps. So step could be n in number. It could depend. It would depend on the kind of scenario you are executing. So every test scenario will have test steps. So there are these three things that we have to describe in order to we have to write in order to describe a test scenario: feature, scenario, and step. And in the slide here, we have just done that. We have defined a feature, we have defined the scenario, and we have defined the steps to perform the scenario. This is how you write a manual test. Right. So writing a manual test and writing a cucumber test are almost same. In this case, you describe everything in plain English language. In cucumber also, you will describe all your tests in English language. The only difference would be, instead of writing the tests inside a notepad or a word pad or an Excel, you would write your test inside a feature file. So let's say we create a new feature file. So I will just right click on the features folder. This is the folder that we created earlier in our previous class. So all I have to do, I will just right click on it. I will do a new, and I will say a file. And in the file, I would say that I want to create a feature set for, I want to write tests for our login feature. So I would create a feature file with the name login and an extension of .feature. We discussed it in the earlier class that Cucumber can only understand .feature extension as a valid extension for a feature file. So you have to end all your feature files with an extension of .feature. So once you created the file, just click on finish, and it should create a feature file in the background. So this is the login feature file. Now we don't need the sample feature file, so I will just delete it. We used it earlier in the previous class just to verify whether our project setup was successful or not. So I will delete the sample feature file. We don't need it now. So now we have created a feature file for Cucumber. Now going back to the logic that I described earlier, all we have to do is just follow this logic. The very first thing that you would do, you will create a feature and you will describe the feature. To describe a feature in Cucumber, you have to start the feature description with the keyword feature, F-E-A-T-U-R-E, and at the end a colon. Now once you describe a feature, once you describe a feature, you would, after this keyword, you would enter the description of the feature. You can say login functionality for demoqa.com. So this way you would add some text to your feature so that you can relate to the feature, and anybody who is coming new in your project can directly read the feature description, and he or she can understand what this feature file represents. So here I have just given a small description. You can have a better description here. So basically the key point is that if you want to describe your feature file, put the feature keyword colon and then the description of the functionality. In our case, it's login, so I've just said login functionality for demoqa.com. Now, after that, you would describe different scenarios. So to describe a scenario, you have to use the keyword scenario, and that's it. Scenario keyword and then the description of the scenario. So in our case, if I go back to the slide, the description of the scenario was verify that user is able to log in successfully to demo QA website. So I will simply say verify that user is able to successfully log into demo QA website. Simple as that, right? Let me expand this. So we have just written the scenario description, right? We are going in exactly the same steps in which we write our manual scenarios. So the first thing, we describe the feature. The second thing, we write the scenario. And after that, we write the scenario steps. Now, scenario steps are written with the keywords like when, then, given. So what it means is that Cucumber can understand couple of keywords, for example, the feature and the scenario keyword, right? So for the time being, I will just use the keywords without describing them much, but in the coming classes, we will describe the keywords more properly, and we will make better feature files as we learn more keywords. So for the time being, you just remember that you can use the given keyword. So you can say given a user is on demoqa.com website, demoqa.com, and then after that we will say when user clicks on my account link, and then after that, then user is taken to login page. Then we can say when user enters a valid username password, then user is able to log in. Now pay attention that the steps that are mentioned here are somewhat similar to what we described uh, in our presentation. We just said that there are these three steps. Now in Cucumber, every step should be preceded by a keyword, which could be any of the given, when, then keywords. So I have started with a given keyword, which states that it is a precondition given a user is on demoqa.com. And after that, when the user clicks on the my account link, then the user should be taken to the login page. This is like the verification part, then which describes that something has happened, we have to verify it. So once the user is taken to the login page, and when the user enters a valid username and password, then the user is able to log in successfully. So basically, this is how you describe a feature file in Cucumber. Now, don't worry if you are not able to understand the given, when, then context right now, but the only thing that you have to take away from this class is that this is how you describe a feature file. We will talk about the keywords later on in details in the coming classes, but at this point in time, just keep in mind that you describe a feature file in somewhat English-like language. Right. Now you could have described everything in plain English, but then it would become very hard for Cucumber to understand what you have written. That's why for Cucumber to understand your feature file, which is pretty much in English, for it to understand it, you should use keywords. So when Cucumber will come here and it will try to read your feature file, it will look for keywords. So it will look for a keyword called feature. Once it finds a feature keyword, it will say that the feature is this. It will take this text out and it will understand that, okay, this belongs to the feature description. After that, it will come and it will try to find the scenario. And once it gets the scenario keyword, it will understand that, okay, this is a test case and the description of the test case is this. After that, once it has the scenario, it will try to find out the steps inside the scenario. So how will it find the steps? It will look for keywords like given, when, then, and there are a few more keywords. So it will try to look for those keywords, and for every keyword it will assume that there is a step. and the step description is this: a user is on demoqa.com. So this becomes a test step description. So basically this is how you define a feature file. Now let me go back to the slide and let us quickly take a look how this manual step is being converted to a feature file. We had already done it just now, but in the slide you can see that uh, the same test can be written something like this: a feature, a scenario, a given keyword, a when keyword, and a then keyword. And this is exactly what we have done here. We have created a feature, scenario, given, when, then. These are the test steps. This is the test description. They combined together forms a test case, and this forms a feature. And everything here in the feature file combined with the scenarios makes the test bed for that particular feature. So just keep this in mind. We would be talking more about what different keywords are, and we will try to use them in a better way. But for the time being, this is what a feature file is. I hope it's quite clear in understanding, because it's a very simple thing, very simple topic. Uh, we will get more details later on, but don't confuse yourself right now. Just remember what is being taught here in this class. After that, let us move on to the next part of this tutorial, which is how Cucumber works. Right? What is it that Cucumber does, and it helps us, which helps us run our tests. Okay, so to understand it, let me go back to the feature file now, uh, and let me just go back to our manual tests that we created. So I will simply remove this part. Okay, so right now till this point we have just created a feature file. The feature file is in plain English, right? It is in almost like English language. I will just replace this also, given with certain keywords, given, when, and then. Let us replace it and let us make it a proper feature file. Now pay attention. Uh, Pay attention to this part. We have just expressed our tests in plain English like language, but for an automated test we need code. We need code that can interact with your application, right? So what is this code and where does it come from? We have just plain English like test. How does it translate into code? So what happens is that in Cucumber you define feature files, and then on the other side you define test code also. Now test code is called a step definition. Okay, so why is it called a step definition? Because for every test step there has to be a test code uh, in your test suite, so that Cucumber can read your test step and find the test code and execute the test code. So this is how your plain English like tests are converted into actual test code which runs on your application and which verifies your application. So there are two things to remember. There are feature files that we just discussed, and then there are step definitions, which are basically the actual test code. All right, so with this in mind, let us just go back to the slide and let us look at uh, uh, the diagram which I have created. Now, at the center of everything, your test, Cucumber test, is Cucumber. Now, Cucumber, what it does is, the very first step that it takes is it reads your feature files. Right. So in our case, if you go back to your Eclipse environment, and if I expand the project explorer, the package explorer, you can see that there is a folder called features, and in this folder there is a feature file. In your case, once you have a mature project, you would have like hundreds of feature files in the features folder, right? So the very first thing that Cucumber will do, Cucumber will come here in the features folder, and it will pick up all the feature files and it will start reading the feature files. Based on the keywords it finds, it identifies the number of scenarios that you have and number of steps that you have in your features. Right. So that is the first step that it takes. It reads your feature files and it identifies the number of tests, number of functionalities, number of features that you have. Once it is able to make uh, make once it is able to make the list of features and the steps that it needs to execute, it goes back to your test code. And test code is basically the step definitions. It goes to your test code and it starts finding uh, test methods corresponding to each test step that you described in feature file. So for if I come back to the Java to the Eclipse environment, in the second step, Cucumber will try to find a corresponding test code for every test step. Okay, so it will try to find it. If it finds it, it will just execute the test step. Right, this is step 2 of Cucumber. It will execute the test step, and the test step will in turn interact with your application and it will give you the results back. Right, that is step 3. So once Cucumber executes your test step definition, the definition itself interacts with the application, and then the testing process happens. So this is how Cucumber works. Cucumber is a bridge between your feature file and your step definitions. Cucumber reads your feature files, finds the respective step definitions, and then execute the step definitions. Once the step definitions are executed, they invoke the application under test, and then those step definitions perform different actions on the application. So basically this is how Cucumber works. It's a small simple diagram and you can take a look at it later on also. So I hope this clears out how Cucumber works internally. Alright, so now that we have an understanding of how Cucumber works, let us move on to the next part of the tutorial. The next part is, what is a step definition? Now we understood what a feature file is. We understood how Cucumber reads a feature file and what is it that it looks for in a feature file, but we don't know how step definitions work. Alright, so before I move forward in this slide, I will go back to our code. So in the code, if you remember from the last class, we created a test runner. Right, we said we will create a test runner, and this test runner will be the starting point of your tests. So from here, the test execution will start. Now this is a basic requirement of Cucumber. You have to create a test runner in order to run your tests. Alright, so we created a simple class. In the class we said that I want my test runner to start from a class called cucumber.class, which is present inside the cucumber.api.junit package. So basically here we just informed our test runner, which is the JUnit engine. We informed JUnit that you have to start executing from a class called Cucumber. And this class is located inside cucumber.api.junit. So you can easily go to the reference libraries. You can go to the Cucumber JUnit jar, and in this jar you can go to the package Cucumber API JUnit, and in the package you will find the cucumber.class. So this class is basically the starting point. So this is the starting point, but this starting point internally goes to this class, and from this class everything starts happening. So once this class is invoked, Cucumber tries to find out where the features are. So it has to understand where you have stored your feature files. So to inform Cucumber where your feature files are and where your step definitions are, you have to give Cucumber options. Now Cucumber options is a place where you can pass on values to the Cucumber class so that it can use it. So the very first value that you want to pass is features. You want to inform Cucumber class that the features are located inside a folder called features. Alright, so that's why in Cucumber options we have features equal to features. Now because features is the name of the folder, and that is how if I go back to the slide, this is how first step happens. Cucumber first picks up the Cucumber options, and from the options it picks up where the feature files are present, and then it goes to that folder and then it reads out all the feature files. That is the step 1, and to perform that step 1 we have to tell where the feature files are. After that we have to define where our test code is, which is the second part, this part. So once Cucumber reads the feature file, it has to find the step definitions, right? It has to find the actual test code. So how does it find the actual test code? We specify another option inside Cucumber options which says glue. This means glue because it binds together the features and the test code. So we said that glue is present inside a package or a folder called test code. Right now we don't have a test code folder, so we can simply say that there will be an error that we will get when we run our test. Alright, so with these two options, we will leave the Cucumber test runner class as it is, and we will pick this up later on in our test series, in our video series. We will pick it on somewhere near the end, and we will find more details about different options that we can pass here. Alright, so this is a basic Cucumber test runner class, and it is a proper functioning class. So what you can do, you can just right click on it and you can say run as JUnit test. So when you run as a JUnit test, uh, Cucumber goes to the features folder, it reads out the feature files, and even in the JUnit test reporter, you can see that if you expand this, you can see that uh, if I expand this, you can see that, let me just expand it. You can see that Cucumber was able to find a feature called login functionality for demo QA. If I go here, you would see that it's exactly the same text that we wrote, login functionality for demo QA. Then the scenario is verify that user is able to successfully log into demo QA website. And then these are the steps. And each step is basically right here in front of you. So given a user is on demoqa.com and everything, so it is able to read the feature files, and it is able to execute the feature file. But then there is an error that you get on the console. We will talk about the error in a minute. So let us go back to the slide. So what is a step definition now? We have defined the feature file, but we haven't defined the code for it. So step definitions are basically the code for every step. That's why they are called step definition. This is a step. It needs to have a code for it to run successfully, right? So we have to define test step now. All right. So to define a test step, you have to create test methods inside your test code. Now, test methods, if you're familiar with Java, you would remember that test steps are nothing but tests are nothing but you can create. Let us create a package tests, and inside a package let us create uh, let's say login step definitions. In the test package we have created a class called login step definitions, which will have all the login test steps defined. Alright, so in this class we will just write a simple method called public void. uh, the method would be, if you go back to the feature file, let us see what the first step is. A user is on demoqa.com. So here we just have to define a method called open web open demo QA, and done. So this is basically a test step that we have created. In this we will write code for opening a browser and navigating to demoqa.com. Simple as that. So it becomes one test step. Now in Java terms it's just a method. For Cucumber it becomes a test step, right? So basically for every step that you have, you may have to define a test method inside your test code. But this is a plain Java method, right? How would Cucumber know that this method belongs to this particular test step? Why not this step? There is nothing in the test code that we have written which can actually make Cucumber understand that this test step belongs to a particular step inside a feature file. To do that, to create that mapping, we have annotations inside Cucumber. So the very first annotation is basically the given annotation. All the annotations would exactly be the keyword that you have used here. So for a given step, all you have to do is just go to login definition, and you have to do given @given. Now when you do that, it will give you an error, so you just have to import it. So you can import it from cucumber.api.java. Just import it. Once you have imported the given annotation, you have to give the text of the step. So you just have to copy this thing, and you have to go back to your step definition, and you have to say this. So what we have done here is that we have created created a Java method, and we have added some data over the Java method using the given annotation, and we have added this information that this particular test step, this particular Java method should be executed for a test step, for a cucumber scenario step, which has a text value of this. So you would see that when cucumber comes here, it will see that, okay, this is the text value. It will try to find a method which has a given annotation of this text value, which is exactly what you had put in the login uh, in the first given step, right? So this is how you define test steps, all right, and this is how you create a mapping. Now, Cucumber is smart. It's a smart tool. So whenever it's not able to find a step definition, it gives an error message on screen, and it gives you a suggestion that you can implement the missing step definition using this code. So you can see that it has generated code for all the steps that we had created. So the other way to create a step definition is by simply copying the methods from here and pasting it inside your test class. So all you have to do is just do this. And once you do this, let us just format it a bit. Once you do this, let us do a little bit of formatting. Alright, so once you do this, just import the packages for given, when, then. Alright, and remove the internal implementation of the methods. Right now these methods are just throwing exceptions. You don't want your methods to throw exception, so you would just remove the internal implementation like this. And then there you have a class. Right now it is an empty class because these methods, they don't have any implementation. But what we just got here is that uh, every step, in your feature file here, we have a corresponding test method in a class called login step definitions. So the first thing is a user is on demoqa.com, and it is a given step. So you would see that given a user is on demoqa.com. The second step is when user clicks on my account link. So the other step definition would start with when. So you can see that @when user clicks on my account link, and after that you can see that all other definitions, they match how they are defined here in the feature file. Now also pay attention that whatever text you put here, it is appended by a hat operator and a dollar operator at the end, prepended by a dollar operator in the end. This part is called Java regular expressions. These are regular expressions in order to have a similar looking text form a step definition map. So this is a similar looking expression. It's not exactly as what we have written here, but this is the use of regular expressions. You can use regular expressions to create substrings, or you can define a set of strings with just one line of regular expression. So we will talk about regular expressions in detail later on. But for the time being, this is how you create a step definition. Simple as that. We have a step definition. All we have to do is put our implementation in between. Right now, we will just put system out statements. So we will say that user is on demoqa.com, and we will just print something in the logs for other methods as well. So we will say user clicked on my account link, and here we will say user is taken to the login page, After that, here we will just say user enters valid username and password, and here at the end we will say user is able to successfully log in. Simple as that. Right. So we have just created our step definitions also, and this annotation, this is the map. I want you to pay attention here that this particular annotation, these annotations and the text that you have written inside it, these annotations create a map between a Java method and a test step. Right. So this is how we inform Cucumber that for a particular scenario step, you have to find a test method which has a particular type of annotation, right? So this is how you can define a test step or a step definition inside Cucumber. Now let us quickly try to run this and let us see what we get as an output. But we have to make a small change here. The change is that we have moved our step definitions inside the package called tests, but in the Cucumber runner we have written test code. So we will just modify this and we will run our scenario and let's see what we get in the output. So earlier it was test code. We have just changed it to tests. The package is tests. It should be exactly the same as the package which contains your step definition. So once you have made these changes, just right click on them and do a run as JUnit test. Once you do that, Cucumber will read your feature file, it will try to find the step definitions, and you would see that in the output it will clearly say that it was able to execute one scenario, it contained 5 steps, and it took around these many milliseconds to run your test, right? And for every test step, let me just, yeah, so you can see that whatever we printed out in those test steps, it is being printed out here. So the first step that we had was user is on a demoqa.com page. So the first step was a user is on demoqa.com page, and the corresponding test method was a user is on demoqa.com, and the output that we are printing inside the step definition was user is on demoqa.com, and this is exactly what we see inside the console logs. The first thing that is printed is user is on demoqa.com. Similarly, if you look at the second step, it was user clicks on my account link. The corresponding method was user clicks on my account link. The output that we printed was user clicked on my account link, and this is exactly what we get as the second output of uh, of our test run. And you can verify the other ones also. They are coming in exact sequence in which you had returned it in the feature file. So basically this is how we create step definitions and feature files. So let me go back to the slide and let me go back to this diagram. So now you can understand it better. Cucumber first reads your feature file, and then it goes back and looks at the test code and tries to find corresponding methods for every test step, and then it executes the test step. In our case, we are just doing a simple console print in the steps. So that is being printed on the console window, but in the coming classes we will actually write some Selenium tests which will help us open the application and perform real actions. But for the time being, to explain the working principle of Cucumber, I think that was enough. Uh, and let's see what we have at the end. So that was pretty much it for today's class. I hope you understood what I was trying to explain. But in case you have any doubts or any questions for this class, you can either post it on just below the video, or you can post it on forumsqa.com. So let me just open it for you on the web browser. You can go to forumsqa forumsqa.com right here on this on this application. On this website you can just go around and post your questions and we will pick it up, or you can just post your question just below the video URL. Alright, so that was pretty much it from my side on this class. I hope this was a good learning for you. See you in the next class. Thank you very much.